Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. My name is Uti Elu, and with me in studio today is the bright, pink, gorgeous Mercy.
Thank you.
The hair is working. Everything is just
Wait,
blending.
please don't allow my hair to explode now.
Please allow it.
It doesn't need to explode, but thank you for the compliment. And you look great to yourself.
Thank you. How's your day been?
I know. Well, it's been... I think you should... Today you should ask me how's my week been. So ask me.
Yes, I should ask you, how's your week been?
My week has been stressful.
Uh-huh.
It has been really, really stressful. I mean, the stress that you propose or not propose, you know, everyone seems to be complaining. Things don't seem to be going well. I don't know if I've really sat down to hear anything very interesting. But what's actually the issue right now is commuting is a very big problem. You know, and that's because of, you know, whether it's petrol scarcity. We don't know if petrol is scarce because petrol is still being sold for, you know, the same amount. So we really can't tell what's going on. The fact that, you know, that has also contributed to the fact that the cost of transportation is on the hike, especially when you're not driving. Now, if you're driving, you need to get fuel in your car. So it's a lot of drama. It's
a lot going on. I mean, so I somehow missed that there was a fuel scarcity.
Oh, you did? How?
So I think I worked from home late last week. And then I don't think I went anywhere on Saturday. Yeah, I think I was home all day Saturday. So I went to church on Sunday as normal. My tank was... no, I did go out on Saturday actually, but when I checked the tank, I said, oh, it's okay, it's just about, just below half. So I went to church on Sunday and I did what I normally do. Normally, because I'm serving, you have like, I do like 2.5 services. So my son's limit is like, I'll do two services. I'm not starting a third service. So I normally move him to the car whilst I'm finishing. So, and I will normally leave the engine running. And I've done normally, it's like I said, that's our routine. And then people just kept saying, whose car? This engine is running. And I was like, what's the big deal? I mean, I was obviously out of touch. Because then I was driving home, and again, routine, fill up the tank. First petrol station, not selling. Second petrol station, not selling. Third petrol station, queue. I said, what's going on? Is this another, you know how you feel like it's panic buying and people just see the petrol station and they drive in. So I couldn't even place it. And then we got to Monday and it was like, there's no petrol. So I found myself on Sunday night having to message members of my team to say, look, guys, everybody work virtually. Don't come into the office. Because even me, I now don't have petrol to come in. So yesterday was spent trying to get petrol. But, I mean, we'll get into that conversation later. But I hear you with the stress. The bit for me that even gets me is, the scarcity is one thing. It's the consequences and the ripple effect of it. The traffic, because people will not queue properly. You know, I'm like, we all buy petrol in petrol stations. We all drive in, we buy, we move. Now, when there's a scarcity, why can't we just do the same and organize ourselves? Drive in, buy, and move. But you will see cars coming from all angles in the petrol station to the same pump.
But have you also noticed that, you know, all of that, you find out that when there's petrol scarcity or if you have a situation, because right now I still can have a grasp of what's going on, despite all of the announcement from whether it's the NMPC, whether it's from whoever is saying it, you are actually trying to ask yourself what exactly is the issue. So, but you find out that people would always go to stations where they're selling, you know, the price is quite affordable. And so that's where you have the queue, or maybe they have the product.
They have product, that's why, because at this point, I don't even think people are checking for price, because you just need to buy it.
No, again, it also brings us back to the fact that most times you find these filling stations, you know, very close to the road and all of that, and it takes part of the road, so you find people close. Yesterday, was it yesterday or thereabout? Yeah, it was yesterday, when I was, you know, coming this way. I found out that at a certain point there was so much traffic. But guess what? As soon as I left that particular spot and I got towards, you know, the Chevron axis, the road was just very empty. Right. So, you know, it comes with the queue, you know, scarcity, there's going to be queue, and then if there's rain, the road doesn't traffic.
We'll get into all of that as we go into the show. But here's what we found as today's quote. Fuel scarcity undermines productivity and erodes public confidence in governance, and that's by the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. I mean, like I said, it goes without saying. We just talked about all the issues that productivity, the way it affects Nigerians. But you know, we've got more time when we jump into the conversation to really talk about it. So Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer, is facing a looming fuel scarcity crisis due to a variety of factors, including supply chain disruptions, subsidy removal, and inefficiencies in the downstream oil sector. This crisis has far-reaching implications for the economy, transportation, businesses, and the daily lives of Nigerians. Navigating through this challenge requires a multifaceted approach that addresses both short-term relief measures and long-term structural reforms. It's our Ladies' Night Out, and Mercy and I are here to discuss the topic, navigating Nigeria's looming fuel crisis. And when we open our phone lines, we'd love to hear what you have to say. But first, let's take a break to see what we found in the news. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways. International Jazz Day is celebrated annually on April 30th. It's a day designated by UNESCO to highlight the importance of jazz as a tool for promoting peace, dialogue amongst cultures, diversity, and respect for human rights and human dignity. Jazz, with its roots in African traditions, has evolved into a universal language of freedom that transcends boundaries. The day often sees concerts, workshops, and other events around the world, bringing together jazz musicians and enthusiasts to celebrate the genre's rich history and its ability to connect people across cultures. Are you a fan of jazz music?
I am, definitely. I do love jazz music, and I think that music is, you know, for a certain group of persons. The matured minds, I would really say. I know that we're actually in an era where we want to dance. There's a lot of vibe. Afrobeat seems to be, you know, the sensation across, you know, board, Nigeria, Africa, you know, and then, you know, to other parts of the world, right? But, you know, I love jazz. I do.
Yeah.
And there's some artists that I actually admire. They might entirely not be really purely jazz, but you know, the likes of Asha, her songs, her music's just very soothing to the soul. And one would think that, at this point in time, the music industry, the entertainment industry should probably have activities around. But I don't know, maybe all of the stress in the country is making people forget about what they should do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a while since we had in fact, it's well over 10 years now since we've had, at least to my knowledge, in Lagos, a purely 100% jazz spot. There was a place that used to be in VI, just on Zumba, and it was so well done, and, you know, it just really amazing ambience. But I think jazz music, I agree with you that it's for the matured mind. I think that it's a relaxing type of music, but then it can also be quite lively as well. But I love the sort of combination of instrumentals, you know, so it can be quite an evocative genre. But like I said, there's always a day for everything, so we hope that people have had some opportunity to celebrate jazz today. So what did you find for us in the news?
Okay, so what I found in the news is that finally Nigeria has gotten a local coach. This has been, you know, clamor for a long time. I know you're laughing. The Nigerian Football Federation has yesterday announced the appointment of a former Super Eagles winger, Finidi George, as a new head coach of the nation's senior men's national team. And this announcement came in a statement with the NFF board approving the recommendation of, you know, the Technical and Development Committee to hand over the reins of the 52-year-old. He's actually 52 years old. You can see him there. Former Ajax Amsterdam and Real Beads forward. You know, to Nigeria, and you know, he's got a lot of tasks ahead of him. Okay. Now, for me, this conversation is very, very interesting.
Indeed.
Because over time, Nigerians have been clamoring. So before this time, I think we had this conversation where I say, what do Nigerians really want? It feels like, what do women really want? People always think that women are very confused and we don't know, but that's almost the case for Nigerians. Now, I remember when prior to this time, we had Jose Poserio, and of course his time is out, especially when we didn't make it, you know, at the Africans Cup and all of that. He's gone. But he tried. You know, we also had the likes of Gennett Roar. He's gone, yada, yada. And to be very honest, people, you know, Nigerians keep saying, don't we have the capacity to have local coach? We have people who understand this player, understand the dynamics. We can actually scout, you know, local talents and what have you. and, get his talent to come and play, that's what it is. And just before today, there was also rumors about having Emmanuel Amunike being the coach, but, there were that was rumors up until this announcement. So one would think that Nigeria should be excited about the fact that first, we have a local. We have our own, But that's not the conversation that's going on.
Really?
Some people, yes, that's
What's
not the conversation.
breakdown?
So right now, people are saying, oh, is it that bad with Nigeria? Couldn't we have gotten a foreign coach? Look at the likes of Ghana. Is it that we don't have monies? And, we also have conversations saying that Nigeria is getting this local coach because we can't afford to pay a foreign coach. But what exactly is our problem? Well, now we say, it's okay to understand. You need to understand the people. You need to understand the system. So there are too many questions. Oh, Finidi George does not understand the system. He's not qualified. What experience does he have? And
so in everything that you've said, for me, that's the only valid question, right? So I'm not a football fan. I mean, I remember Finidi George from back in the day when, he was on the national team. But the reality of it for me is, is he qualified? So I hear you talk about the places he's played. Does he have experience? So I don't.
He's been head coach for the Enyimba. I think he recently left.
Oh, okay.
Up until 2023.
So I think that's the only question for me that matters. The choice to whether you choose a local or choose a foreign, I think those are capacity questions. And then it's, again, whatever game plan you choose, right? It's down to what's your strategy. How do you intend to win? If you're looking at a team that requires a coach now, was there an understanding of the needs of the team? And then you're finding a coach that has the ability or the experience and specialty to develop that need or gap that is in the team. But, we're ever patriotic. As we can all tell, Messi is the football fan and Uti is the football novice that doesn't really care. But the day Nigeria is playing...
But let me bring you up to speed quickly, so you will know, because I feel sorry for Finidi George, because right now he has a very important task, and the task is that Nigeria should qualify for the 2026 games that's coming up. And if that does not happen, FIFA,
no, that's
2026, a FIFA World Cup qualifying matches against South Africa.
Okay.
That will be happening in 33 days. And Benin Republic, that's in Uyo and Abidjan, respectively, within 5 weeks. So he has a job.
Some tasks. So these are qualifiers. Please let me ask a very novice question. The Olympics is when? Are we not playing football in the Olympics?
No, I can't give you facts right now. I can't give you dates right now. But I know that he has a tax, and I feel sorry for him if Nigeria does not qualify, because he's going to be up for slaughter.
He's been in football for almost his entire life, so I'm sure he's used to the ups and the downs. But we wish him all the very best, and certainly extend that to the Super Eagles as well. My story, my headline says, Court slams 30 million naira damages against Linda Ikeji. Now, this story caught my attention because in Delta State, a judge has, sitting at the Delta State High Court in Efirin, has awarded 30 million naira as general damage against Linda Ikeji over her libelous publication against the Neo-Black Movement of Africa, MBN. The judge, Justice Rolly Daibo Harriman, in her rulings, also awarded 300,000 naira for the cost of litigations against the blogger, and she's also been instructed by the court to place a publication in her blog and national dailies retracting the libelous publication that was complained about. Now, for me, this story, we've had, I think it was recently, we had Nathaniel Bassi, all right, Pastor Nathaniel Bassi and Mercy Chimbo, where, people went on social media and were claiming that, her baby looks like him and all these false, without any proof. So I think that with freedom comes responsibility. So we have bloggers, we now have all sorts of social media and mediums that are available that are not perhaps regulated. And freedom of speech is a wonderful thing, but you must also be responsible. You must be able to ensure that your statements are verified as facts, that you're not contributing to the growing problem of fake news and that. So she's a very popular, well-known blogger. She's probably one of the oldest in that field. And it's been a lucrative field for her from all reports. So I think that it's important now that this just shows and sets a precedent to say, look, there must be some responsibility. You can't be going after clicks and spinning a story because you think, oh, you can just take it down tomorrow, and you've not had any kind of measurable impact. So today we've ascribed a 30 million naira value to this particular court case. I hope it serves as a warning to say, look, this medium, these freedoms that we have, we should be respectful of it, and we should be respectful of persons. So for me, this is a win.
I couldn't agree less with you. The word is we have to be responsible. To be very honest, we have also come to accept the fact that we're in a period where social media is the new media. But, you know, freedom comes with responsibility. Now I'm quoting you. And that's very valid. I do not, you know, hold anything against whether you have a fine. People have to begin to pay because it costs a lot. Now, it brings me back to the previous conversation that I had. I remember that last week or 2 weeks back, I was going to, if you notice very well, pre this show, I had, you know, proposed talking about Super Eagles head coach. I had reasons for wanting to talk about that particular story. And there were a lot of mediums on social media, including very reputable, you know, print media that carried the story that Emmanuel Amunike has been announced as, you know,
I remember that, and you had to take it up and put, you know, you took it down again to say it
I
wasn't
retracted
verified.
that story because when I did my fact finding, I had to call all the journalists. I even had to reach out to the, you know, the minister, the sports minister, media personality, or, you know, media person, you know, to verify all of this news. And I found out that the NFF, I even had to go to the NFF's page to find out that NFF had not even announced or posted anything about the story. The word here is responsible. Yes, we are in an era where social media has become a thing, and the traditional media might be suffering. Whether the traditional media or the new media, we have to be responsible.
We must be
And once upon a time, remember where the government said, hey, we want to gag the media, we want to control. This is because of all of this. You can't afford to put out stuff you're not sure.
I mean, they ban, whether we agree or not, they ban Twitter, and, you know, again, it's that call for responsibility. So I'm happy to see this, and hopefully it will have some positive impact. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the conversation.
You look back, you can't even check what your salary can truly afford. I was saying yesterday, when the governor of Lagos State came out to say that that they want to start enforcing monthly rentals, I said you are putting the cart before the horse. Because right now, even those salaries that you're earning on a monthly basis cannot afford those rents. A lot of people, what they do, when it comes to rental, they have one bobo there, or they have one uncle, they have one auntie. They'll just say, they give them
some people save. What do you mean? Some people save their rent.
Some
people plan for rent. Don't generalize these things.
I said some people. I said some. Why? They say he that has no come with clean hands. How they say they speak the English.
Welcome back. You're still watching Waste. Tonight we shine a spotlight on the looming fuel scarcity crisis gripping the nation. As fuel shortages become more pronounced, Nigerians are grappling with long queues at gas stations, transportation challenges, and the ripple effects on various sectors of the economy. So today we're discussing the topic, navigating Nigeria's looming fuel crisis. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp, 2081803846663. So, again, like I said, I stumbled into this fuel scarcity. I didn't know that it was on. And I didn't have, till now, I've tried to find some measure of clarity, some news article that explains, not just tells me there's a fuel scarcity and here's why they said, but actually gives some, like you said, I'm trying to fact check to say, what's the real source of this fuel scarcity? Because the first time I heard the fuel scarcity, when I got home on Sunday, someone said to me, oh, it was, they said, oh, they think that it's something to do with Dangote and the price of diesel. And I said, what has diesel got to do with petrol, right? Then somebody else said, I saw the first story, an article that I saw said the marketers were saying how they're not getting product from NNPC depots, so they don't have to sell. So in truth, even having read a couple of stories, I'm still unclear as to why we don't have product, right? But I don't even think that this is about the current wave of scarcity. Because, to be honest, since last year, when the president made the announcement in his speech, we literally sat down to watch TV, speech was over, and if the spirit did not reveal to you what was about to happen, because some people, they said that as they were listening to that speech, as soon as they heard subsidy is gone, they ran outside, they carried keg, they put it in their car, they went to the petrol station. The spirit did not reveal it to me. So by the time I got out the next day, queues everywhere. So we've been in a somewhat constant state since then till now of fuel scarcity, fuel scarcity. Sometimes it's artificial, sometimes it's genuine. We've had all sorts of, price. At one point, the price change was big news, right? Then the first, of course, the subsidy is gone. That price change was big news. The next increase was big news. After that, it just became, this petrol station has increased. I don't even know when it crossed the 600 naira mark. But it just said, oh, this person is selling for 605. This person is selling for 610. Then you have to start training yourself to actually look at the board of the petrol station to say, do I want to buy petrol there? But the reason why I think that this is a crisis is because directionally, I personally don't have a measure of comfort to say, I don't know that if even we drive out today or tomorrow and the scarcity is gone, there is nothing that assures me that in a few days we won't be back here again. Because there isn't a measure of clarity as to, okay, why? What's causing it? Is it dollar? Is it no dollar? Is it cheap? Is it security? Is it war somewhere? I just couldn't find any tangibles around this problem.
And that's the truth, because even while we started talking about the stress that we're going through over the week and what have you, it was still part of the fact that I'm still trying to understand what is responsible for all of this drama that we're faced with. But to be very honest, if you look at it, we want to talk about what exactly, if it is scarcity, what is disturbing scarcity? Why don't we have petrol? Because at the end of the day, it's the fact that petrol is scarce. Whether it's man-made, whether it is, as it should be, petrol scarcity is a major issue. But as a country, I feel that we have always ignored the fact that we need to address issues from the root.
No, we are reactive now.
It has always been, and that's why I always say it's not rocket science. You don't need to throw any magic wand. It's not an abracadabra. You don't need to pray about. There's some things we don't literally need to pray about. They're just basic things that we need to understand. Now, let's even look at it. Don't forget that 4 years ago, the refineries, our local refineries, were actually shut down. As of 2023, we've also had the Nigerian government saying, hey, we're going to start, the refineries will start working, the Port Harcourt refinery and what have you. Right now, one cannot actually tell what the exact state of the refinery.
Are you not even surprised that the Dangote refinery itself is up and running? Because even that seemed like a white elephant at some point.
Oh, we will definitely get to that point. But if you look at it at the end of the day, you want to look at the fact that do we have the capacity to refine? Our capacity to refine our own product is limited. 4 years, our refineries have been shut. Now, the reason the NNPC gave that excuse for shutting the refineries could be probably very valid. For instance, they said because of vandalism.
Yeah,
the
but
pipelines
these refineries haven't maintained. They haven't been maintained over the years. It's not by magic that it will actually be working.
But we can't actually say that they haven't been maintained, because there's always, they call it turnaround maintenance. There's an acronym for that. There's always a budget for that over the years.
That's why there's budget. It does not mean it's being done.
So the actual thing is this: our capacity to refine is limited. we don't refine our products by ourselves. We literally have to export our products to be refined and then imported. Now, you understand that the global markets cannot be predicted. Anything can happen. Right now, you say Russia and Ukraine is having issues. It fluctuates. The prices fluctuate. Anything can actually happen. And you cannot constantly, as a nation, always depend on, the international community, because there would be a lot of troubles. Now, we're hoping that, just as the government has said, in 2023, we're going to have our refineries working. Now, the major issue is that our capacity to refine is not okay, because when we export the crudes, the pipelines are being vandalized by some criminal elements that we're unable to arrest, because these people are not ghosts. They operate in our systems. They are brothers, our sisters. They are not spirits. They did not come from anywhere. We know them. But unfortunately, we can't, we don't have a handle over this situation. That's what we're saying. Now, another issue is the fact that, okay, in that particular case, vandalism is a problem. Then again, what's another excuse? We do not have the infrastructure. Now, who is going to provide the infrastructure? At the end of the day, these are some of the issues that would impede it. Because now, when you have, for instance, what's the recent, security situation of people who are going into war, and not Iran and Israel and what have you, that's also threatening, at the end of the day, what happens. Because we're highly dependent. Do you know that, according to statistics and data, there are earnings for FX, 95% from oil earnings or more.
I mean, that has been our historical approach. And I like the fact that you talked about the infrastructure. And that's the point I was trying to make when we were talking about the refineries. The refineries have not refined a drop of product in almost, at least my adult life. Let me leave childhood. They haven't. The bill, I think it was for the Kaduna refinery, even as far back as, I think it was when we're still in military regime. I remember reading that somewhere. That even that bill then was prohibitive, and they said, no, we can't spend this much. So the reality of it is, I even think that, and if you look at other countries, the business should be left to the private sector, right? Whether it's power generation, whether it's petroleum, refining, the entire sort of process should be left to the private sector. So now the Dangote refinery is running. There's investments in there. There'll be governance. There'll be accountability. Whether or not we say, oh yes, it's part funded or part investment coming from the Nigerian government, but at least we've seen traction, right? Whether or not it's not obviously not going to be able to meet the demand for the whole of Nigeria at the moment. Even I think the overall capacity doesn't meet the demand. But then again, even the tracking of our demand today our numbers are not particularly clear as to what is Nigeria's consumption on a daily basis when it comes to PMS. So we also have these challenges, right? Then you come to the actual sector itself. Well, I say the downstream sector. The marketers also. In this time, they are also now feigning they are part of the victims. We don't have product. We don't have to sell. But are their hands also clean in this process, right? Today, people will feel that they're hoarding product, and you go to petrol stations and there's no product to buy. I mean, they've come out to defend themselves to say, well, there's NNPCs are our source, and we don't have it. So is there a place now for me to say, we need more Dangotes? We can't just have one person, because, again, you are creating a monopoly. We need more Dangotes. We need the government to invest in more people, even if we're bringing in foreign investors. But it has to be that we understand that this is a private sector. This is a solution that is going to come from the private sector. They've privatized NNPC, actually. So, in fact, even the government is taking that approach. But you're saying now that the government has no business running businesses. And that, for me, is the first challenge. The refineries and the way they've gone, all the problems that we've had, the government has no business running this. And for as long as we have that, there is nothing to say that these issues will not continue. Today, a lot of Nigerians have divested. A friend of mine moved house over the weekend, and the technician who installed her inverter came to dismantle it. And I said to him, your business must be booming right now, because given the hike in electricity tariff, the grid collapsing every 2 minutes, your business must be booming. People are having to take their own power supply into their own hands and finding alternative solutions. Again, buttressing that fact that says, please, government, can you remove your hand from here? Because all of these things, they should be run as businesses. They should be run to be profitable. Even the hike in petrol hike in electricity was driven by the fact that Gencos need to make money, Discos need to make money. They need to be able to pay, whether they're paying for gas, whether they're paying for the power that they're then distributing. All of these things, they are commercial transactions.
No, but I mean, it's very valid to say that, government has no business running business. And that is true. It's a saying that has been going on for a very long time. But do government understand that they have no business running business? And what exactly is the role of the government in governance at the end of the day? Is it not to provide an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive?
That's it.
Now, first of all, for whatever it is, imagine that we sit as a country right now. I would say that, every election cycle, let's just have one president that comes. Don't tell us too much story. And because right now I'm very pissed. Because every other election period, election cycle, we have governors, we have presidential candidates who come and give us stories and say all sorts of things. When I come, $1 will become $1. All those kind of statements. Nobody's asking how.
Your mandate.
What kind of magic do you want to perform? Because you just come. These days you can't even tell your kids stories. They will ask you questions. They will say, "Mommy, Daddy, how?" But Nigerians.
I know, but I think that's
we will change one.
Yeah.
It is really annoying. Now the question is, if government has no business in running business, what exactly is government's business? Government's business is to provide an enabling environment so that the private sector
the lives and property of the
and
citizens.
major on top of the list. If we talk about issue of vandalism or theft, don't you think that? So even if now, including Dangote now, he should be thinking about this. I hope whoever is running whatever, I hope you're thinking, because it's not because your Dangote does not mean that these all thefts are not going to come to
theft,
you. They will come. So you have to, but this is where government comes in, because security is a major issue. It's very expensive, and it's not supposed to be in the hands of the private sector.
No, before you go to security.
No, I'm just saying.
No, I want you to hold the thoughts.
Okay, let me hold the thoughts.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, Mercy is going to take off. Please stay with us.
Fine with this person, and that's what it is really. So which is where we have to, begin to look at the things that we consume, the things that we take in, so that we can, watch how it goes, because our body doesn't really break it down so much. And then also as we evolve, we begin to find out that some food doesn't sit well with us. There are people that are lactose intolerant, for example. There are people that can't handle gluten very well, for example, like me. And then you need to be aware of those, food, and then it then guards what you do. It also guards the activities that you do as well, because sitting down too long also because you're an adult is also a problem. You don't move around as much as a child, just flowing from that space, and that's really what it is actually. We corporate organizations, encouraging them to create wellness spaces, because they benefit in the long run, right? They will spend less on health insurance schemes, they'll spend less, they will have less situations of absenteeism, because no people will be, so it promotes the overall productivity of the organization, really. So that's what an angle where I will come from. Yes. Over time, once it peels off, the peeling off that is going into the food that you're eating.
Isn't that when you use a metallic spoon?
It doesn't matter. Over time, non-stick parts would eventually lift. They would lift. The material that they use inside would eventually lift out, and then a lot of people don't throw it away anyway. You keep using it, and then a lot of people also don't use wooden spoons when they are touring their food. When we were growing up, they used to use wooden stick. And then there was the packer that they used to pack the food. It was wooden.
So if you're just tuned in, it's our ladies' night out and we're discussing the topic navigating Nigeria's looming fuel crisis. Please let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. Our phone lines are also now open. You can give us a call on 0702 500-7749. Please remember to turn down the volume of your TV set so we can have a great conversation. So, Mercy, we're about to talk about the security challenges that impact the sector.
Yes. So, I mean, because we're saying that, yeah, the private
Government's
sector needs to come in, we can't allow government running all of this. And I said, that's absolutely correct. But then again, government has a role in ensuring that, you know, the environment is very favorable for the private sector to thrive, the likes of Dangote and whoever is coming in, you know, into the oil sector. Apart from the fact that you have to ensure that the security, when we talk about security, because these pipelines are being vandalized, you know, by all sorts of elements, wherever it is, we have to ensure that there's protection. General security is important. So it cuts across, you know, it's the responsibility of the federal government, the state government, you know, local government. Security is very important because these businesses will be situated, you know, in local governments, in villages and what have you. Now, that's it. Government also via her policies, because policies have been used by countries, you know, to transform their economy.
Absolutely.
Look at, you know, China. Once upon a time, a poor country. China used policy, you know, agricultural revolution. Look at them now. There's technology transfer because of policy. So we're saying, yes, government, you have no business. If you can't run this business, it's very obvious you can't run the business. There's a lot going on, corruption. You're not efficient and all of that.
On your focus.
Why don't you, you know, mind your business and do the business of governance, which is ensuring that, you know, the private sector can come in and they're thriving. It's you know, it's attractive for investors to come in. And then again, but, you know, there's also another conversation about having the Dangotes come in. Don't forget that. You know, people think that when Dangote come in, there will be a lot of economic benefits, job opportunities, direct impact on the you know, the environment, development, and what have you. You know, the product might also be available, especially if they are going to be refining. But you know, it's also not going to say that the products would be very cheap. The one is not cheap or affordable.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Is not a
charity.
Christmas.
He's not.
Maybe that's the word I'll use. He's not charity. He's a businessman. And if you know that everybody who ventures into business wants to make profit, it's a capitalist system. Profit is always, you know, at the front border. Nobody cares about you, and that's the problem of this world.
I mean, even as Nigerians, we, by virtue of the fact that the NNPC itself is a shareholder in Dangote, we even want the business to be profitable, right? Because you have to collect your dividends, your investment has to, you know, there has to be a return on that investment. But it really is that point you made about what is the, for me, I said it the last time on the show, what is the cost of production? What is the profit margin? We're not saying don't make profit, but if we're refining this product abroad, and even with the cost of refining abroad, purchasing it with FX, even with all of that, if the price difference between the locally refined product and the imported product with all these different variables, if there's not much difference, then what have we been going on for years about?
Then we would definitely just say for the availability of the product.
Exactly. So it's not even the availability, because the truth is, for me, I'm like, what's the point? It's effort commensurate to outcome. So if you're telling me that I'm going to spend all this money, invest in a local refinery that is not meeting my entire demand, which means I'm still going to have to import, then when I import, the cost of what I'm importing and the cost of what I'm producing, the price difference is marginal. Then the refinery solved no problem in the first place. So that potentially is another conversation for another day, perhaps when we have a subject matter expert in the room. But we've sort of set the scene around what actually makes this a crisis, the longevity of it, the different factors driving it. But let's even talk about what this crisis means for the average day Nigerian. We just talked about how the stress of it has impacted us this week. And if you've been out, you know, any time this week, you can really see the impact. The traffic is crazy. I mean, let's not, Nigerians, we're badly behaved in the midst of trying to buy petrol. Like, we block the road. Let's form 20 lanes because there's a petrol station here. But there's a real loss of productivity, right? You are spending time lost on the road, time in commuting. You know, then there's the ripple effect of the cost of transportation, the supply and demand. If the petrol is more expensive, less vehicles on the road, demand goes up, price goes up. So even the people who are then trying to ply the roads in public transportation, it's costing more. Then when we juxtapose that against having to supply power ourselves because the grid is not providing everything that we need. You then add this same problem back into everyday life. So I have to run my generator. If I say, okay, I don't want to go out, I want to work from home, I still have to have power to be able to work.
So everything is intertwined.
There's a snowball effect, and exactly, the entire thing is intertwined. And at the center of that is the average Nigerian consumer being hit from all sides, like literally, how do we cope with this? And this is in an already strenuous time. Everything is expensive, prices are sky high, inflation is sky high. Then you add this to it. I said the other day, I said, let the people breathe. Look, we are gasping for air.
Exactly. And if you look at it, just like you have mentioned, now, because we can't boast of our, electricity, power supply across the entire nation. Let's not even talk about the fact that people do not have the capacity to pay. That's a different conversation. Imagine that, we solve the issue with the power sector. Energy, we just provide power across the entire nation. We say constant power. The issue of people paying will be a different conversation.
Of course, it's value for money. Once you
People
have value, you will
pay.
find the money. You'll pay.
That's exactly what it is. But now people do not have power supply. And then they have to provide their own power. That means they will need to get petrol or diesel to power their, generators and what have you. That's also, another stress on its own entirely. And some of the ways, if we had, for instance, a city as Lagos, Lagos is a mega city, is a lot of city. I remember one time when Amampo was in Nigeria, and I heard the statement when she said Nigeria, Lekki was an expensive slum. I was so mad because I would admire
Nigerians are easily offended.
But then again,
the
it's the truth. I told myself, why are you upset? You shouldn't be upset at what Amampo said. She just said the truth. That's the truth.
She saw it.
So imagine that we have the road network in Lagos is very poor. That's why all of this. First of all, let's even imagine that, because everybody is going through the same road. Imagine that. I always ask myself, I paint a picture in my mind. Imagine that there's a crisis, there's an earthquake, there's something. Have zombies pursuing us from somewhere, chasing everybody from Aja. Everybody has to come through Aja, trying to get to, try to board the aircraft, all of that. We're going to be on the same way. The road network is bad.
Yep.
Because we're all building houses on the places we're not supposed to build houses. That's number one. It is poorly bad. We don't have a good transportation system. At this point, we have no business. There should be an alternative. People have no businesses buying cars every day and all of that, because even myself, I want to buy a car. I want to buy a car. Everybody wants to buy a car. If you have one, you want to buy another one. We have no business. If we had a good transport system, we won't be talking about all of this. There will be train alternative. There will be a coordinated system where people can actually use buses. They can actually use a train. They can go to where they're going to. People don't need to put cars on the road and all of that. And now the world, a lot of people are moving away from the use of fossil fuel. People are using away from petrol.
Now we're
energy.
coming to alternative energies.
Now I hear some people saying, oh, we're using electric car charger. Like, why do people want to charge all of these things that you're buying all over the place? Because we're just a show of people.
In fact,
right?
when you talk about the alternative fuels, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the story came out that the government was releasing the gas-powered buses. And I don't know, that filled me with some trepidation, because this is an extremely, when you think about the way people drive, in my mind, this is the visual that I got. You know how your gas cylinder at home, how it's very flammable and you are very careful around it. Now imagine strapping that gas cylinder. This is just a visual. But imagine strapping that gas cylinder to the back of your car.
When is your birth month?
Then, you know what I mean? And then a car bumps into you, and I'm just seeing eruption. So when I saw that, I thought, this is on paper a solution that should add up, because yes, we produce a lot of gas. We can, you can use this to manage the cost of the expense of transportation for the masses. But for me, that kind of solution fails to take into context the reality. And I think that's why we've seen that there is a real boom in the solar space, because we have sun, right? We all have rooftops. So solar has become the new thing. But I think that we are missing a lot of opportunities in other types of renewable energies. Wind energy, for example, right? Other countries, Netherlands, for example, wind turbines all over the place. So there's so much that we haven't explored to try and meet our power needs. And given the fact that states now have the capacity, or let me not even say capacity. They don't reach capacity. They have the
power.
They have the rights now.
Okay, what is right?
To actually, states need to start to look at ways in which they support their grid outside of fossil fuels. Because you're right, the world. I mean, if you argue with some of the naysayers, they will say the fossil fuels has got nothing to do with global warming. It's all a lie. But the reality is, the world is trying to shift away from fossil fuels. It is damaging by all reports. But if we only rely on electricity, see that electric vehicle, every time I see memes with Teslas in Lagos, I'm like, I mean, it's funny. But it's the opportunity is there because the power is required. So we still have to figure out a way to charge those electric vehicles. We still have to figure out a way to use these alternatives to power our different real sectors.
But you know what's going to bust that bubble? Because if we start talking about, honestly, this is how I'm thinking. It's okay to say let's have an alternative, but we can't start having an alternative where petrol seems to be a major source of earning. If we take that away, imagine when those who are patronizing us and all of that start stopping. They just stop patronizing us. What will happen to our earning? What will we now do? 95%, 80%. That's also a problem because it feels like we have decided to focus our attention, on
those other sectors. I mean, the previous president, very socialist that he was, but the man was onto something when he talked about the amount of arable land in Nigeria, and So again, we almost sort of circle back to ease of doing business, responsibility of the government to provide security, because we weren't always oil dependent. We were a leader in the export of cocoa. We're still, I mean, even in the face of our industries not being optimal today, in some cash crops, we are still exporters, right? Where we have tanneries in the north, we're exporting leather. It's like everything we export, then we import. The day I found out that we were exporting leather for the likes of Louis Vuitton and Co to make their bags, I'm like, really? It's my cow that I'm paying thousands and thousands of dollars to be swinging back. So the full circle that we come to is, I won't call it a challenge, but it's something that now needs to be really looked at. Sadly, I want to say that there's no altruism. Everybody is selfish in their own way.
Oh, yeah,
so you've talked about the policies. It's one thing to have policies, another thing to have implementation, it's another thing to have monitoring, So it feels like we're in a vicious cycle right now. But I also always, in the issues of Nigeria, I always love to be positive. I think that we are transforming, and it is, as they say, darkest before the dawn. Metamorphosis, thank you. So that process of becoming a butterfly, we're going through it. But these changes, even if you disagree with the approach of this current administration, what I can see is that these changes are forcing us to have some tough conversations. It's forcing reality, and it's opening doors of opportunity. Now, whether we choose to step into those doors or find partners and perhaps foreign investors to help step into those doors, but we really need to find creative solutions to this problem. Because if we continue as is, we will just keep going round with more frequency. So it's like a spiral. As you get closer to the center, it ges tighter and tighter. We're going to keep having these issues, right? So not every problem is solved by the government, which is why I say private sector, private sector, private sector. Government empower us. But as a people, we also now have to educate ourselves, because I now, every time I refer to this, I always feel some type of way. When the minister said we were not good at conserving energy, we just leave ACs on and all. There's a measure now of Nigerians also being aware of strategically managing your power needs, even if you are doing it from the perspective of protecting your pocket and saying, you know what, if I'm going to spend 100K on petrol for the month, that's it. I must make sure that whatever power that 100K is going to generate, right, I stick to managing it to get me through the month. So there are also places, if we wait and say the only solution is government, we may be waiting in perpetuity.
I think that I haven't, as a person, I've never been an advocate for saying, government is. I feel like fixing the entire system is a collective effort. All hands must be on deck. Everyone is responsible, and that's the only way to move this country forward. It's a beautiful country. Trust me.
It's an
I wish we could just
amazing
get
country.
everything right. It's just beautiful to be here.
We will get there.
Eventually. But we have to put in the work, and that's important. But, for starters, right now, I remember when COVID happened, a lot of people talked about it's time where companies and businesses, especially if you're not rendering an essential service. For instance, you're a doctor. Doctors are not expected to now work remotely, especially when you have to be at the theater.
Oh, yeah, essential services.
So you have to be there. No, this is time where businesses, organizations, what have you, would begin to incorporate,
technology and digital transformation.
Technology, incorporate all of that into service and product delivery or whatever it is that you're, you're rendering. Let people begin to consider remote work.
Yep.
You don't even need to open that office. It is very important because it will save you the cost of running diesel. Do you have, are you on the bandits, whatever, or the bandwagon? Do you have power supply, to run your business? So it's important that we begin to look for ways, to salvage the situation. People don't need, how much are you even paying these persons?
Yeah.
Because people literally have to spend all of their money, what you're earning on transportation. And you know how Lagos is. It's a very massive city.
Yeah.
So I think that, as much as we're looking up to government to do X, Y, Z, we also have in our capacity to also, act in ways that will be favorable. Let's also, be considerate in our actions. I think that's much I can say.
You have said it all, and on that note, we have come to the end of the show today. But as always, before we go, do ensure that you follow us on Instagram at Wayshow Africa and Official Upgrade TV. Please interact with us. Remember, you can drop a comment, like, share, follow, and remember to invite your friends and family to watch Ways. So if you missed today's quote, here it is again. So fuel scarcity undermines productivity and erodes public confidence in governance. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Bye-bye.